to experience some aspect of the supernatural to help us evolve into something bigger. Maybe it's meant to bring us onto a different course. I have a well-known guest tonight from the metaphysical aspect of the paranormal who is very good at asking such questions. She is a certified psychic medium and medical intuitive and master teacher of psychic development. DeEtte Ranae, let me bring her up here.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic tonight. Tired, but fantastic.
Remind me again, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Wisconsin, the Midwest. So right in the middle of everything. You can't get much more central than that.
So you can just jump on a plane and be anywhere in 2 hours or less.
Washington takes me about 4 hours, but I can drive to Lilydale, New York for 9. So
It's pretty nice.
yeah.
So what is your background and how did you get started on this path?
Okay, my background. I think I'm like pretty much anybody out there. Like I know not every psychic medium agrees with this, but I'm a full-fledged believer that everybody's psychic and everybody's a medium. You know, everybody is able to talk to their own grandma. Everybody has those gut instincts, things of all that nature that go on. So for myself, I spent a whole lifetime of being in this world and not knowing I was because I didn't have another reference to it. And when I became an adult, actually into my 40s, I started seeking people to teach me how to do psychic mediumship. And I just, honestly, I kind of fell into it. Found out I had a little bit of a knack for it. Still wasn't very sure of it. So I ended up on the doorstep of Lisa Williams, who became my mentor through it. And I certified through Lisa. I became one of her master teachers. And it really, the doors just opened from there. I spent a lot of time in the metaphysical world. Like in paranormal, we always refer to paranormal as, that the haunted aspect, but really the whole world is, we're all paranormal. It's just a matter, are you in a haunted house? Or are you, doing more airy fairy type work? And for myself, I always gravitated more to the airy fairy. I would tell people, you'll never find me in paranormal. I like to talk to dead people. I don't want dead people to say boo. I never wanted to believe in entities. I never wanted to believe in shadow people. And I firmly believed if I didn't believe in it, it wouldn't be there, and slowly but surely I got brought into that world also and found out that no matter what I believe in, it's still there. It's just how I'm going to allow it to affect my life or how much I'm going to intrude in its life, So now I just kind of do a little bit of everything. I still teach quite a bit. I'm in the airy fairy world. I'm in the paranormal world, and I'm just enjoying life.
Well, you have a lot going on. You're a nurse too, aren't you?
I am technically, yes. I quit. I retired February 10th, 2020. Spirit had told me to, hang up my scrubs. And I didn't know why, but I said, okay. And I walked into work and I said, I'm done. This is my last night. I'm not doing this anymore. Scared to death, didn't know why. And, a few weeks later, we went into the pandemic and I went, oh, that's a good reason not to walk in there anymore right now.
So this was recent.
It was recent. Yeah. It's only been 2020. It'll be 5 years this February.
Wow.
So that I have not been on the floor. And that was after 21 years. Yeah.
It's kind of you missed the entire COVID thing then, didn't you?
I did. I will say that, you know what, I applaud all the medical staff and the first responders and everybody that really were in the mix of it. I really applaud them for that. It's not a world I could be in anymore. For me, walking into any medical facility was almost painful for me to even, I knew with all my heart, that's not where I belonged. I belonged working where I'm at currently. So for myself to walk into a medical facility, it tore at my soul. Is probably the best way I can say it. And I was very much supported where I was working at.
Wow. Well, I think it would be a very taxing job, taking care of and watching so much heartache around you as well. at the same time.
It could be, but yeah, I will tell you what, nursing also comes with a lot of rewards. It comes with, at least from my perspective, because I'm also a medical intuitive. And obviously, when I was working, I didn't realize I was a medical intuitive, but I would feel my patients inside my body. I would feel them if they had, an issue with the heart or issue breathing or pain. I would actually feel that and would respond to that. And so I could go and assess them, see what was going on with them, and find out what the problem was maybe a little bit quicker. It also helped that if I had a patient passing away, to be there with them.
Oh, that's
So
really neat.
I got the benefits of nursing also. So
Were you able to help them with the with the paranormal, using the paranormal somehow as well, aside from being able to sense what was wrong with them, but maybe they were ill enough, like terminally ill or something like that? Were you able to help?
because most of my career I did agency work. I was really blessed because I never had to stick around anywhere too long if I didn't want to. But I tended to show up the same place for a year or two. And the last facility I stayed, I worked at, I was there for a few years, and I was blessed because literally, if they had a patient passing away and they were just struggling with it, they would actually come and find me and they say, "Hey, DeEtte, we come and do a reading for this person. Can you sit with them? Can you help them?" And all I have to do is go in there and reassure the patient that what you're seeing is there. And, I'm seeing this person, I'm seeing that person. That it wasn't scary, that it was okay, that they were just going to fall asleep, and give them that little bit. And a lot of times on that aspect, now I will tell you, a lot of times when you're going into that, sometimes you're getting somebody that's conscious. A lot of time you're getting somebody that's unresponsive. So at that point, you're talking to their higher self or their soul versus to a body any longer. But yeah, I did it all the time.
I had a really good friend about 10 years ago who was passing away of cancer, and I used to go see him every day, and I'd take him coffee and a paper, even though he got to the point where he couldn't read the paper anymore or drink coffee or anything like that. I still would do that because I felt like his higher self was able to somehow. He loved coffee. He might be able to smell that coffee. He might be able to hear me reading that paper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just something about that.
It really, people don't realize that even when somebody's unresponsive or somebody's, say a dementia unit, something comas, all that, the soul is still there. It may not, now don't get me wrong, it may not be inside the body anymore. It might be outside the body, but it's still there. It's still aware of everything that's going on.
So DeEtte, you went on to teach, and you have a bunch of psychic development classes that you offer. Can you talk a little bit about those? Because you offer a lot.
I do. I offer all levels of psychic mediumship development, all the way through certification. That's something that's really become a passion for me. Before I met Lisa, I was probably the worst teacher. I was horrible. I won't even lie. And I was always put in that place to teach the new nurse that showed up on the job, or orientate them for weeks. I would literally just show them, this is your cart, these are your meds, this is where you find out who it is, these are your rooms, here's your keys, I'll be over there, come in 8 hours. I was horrible. I will tell you what, I was the worst. So the fact that I became a teacher is really mind-blowing to me, yet alone a good teacher. And I love it because I think that's where my abilities really get to come in, because just as with readings, we always say that people gravitate to you based on your own life. So my students gravitate to me based on what's going on in their life. It's something in them is something they're seeing within me. So I get these people that really, they don't trust themselves, and they just completely doubt. They don't know if they're coming or going. They might have had really little bit more of a difficult life, whatever it might be. And to help somebody go through this process and to see them get a self-worth within themselves and light bulbs popping off to say, oh my gosh, I can do this. And this really is real, because to teach psychic mediumship development, you're teaching them to believe in something they can't see, they can't hear, there's just nothing there that says scientifically it's there. but yet I'm going to teach you that it is, and that you can do this too. So for myself to see that, and I'm always I always sit back at these conferences I go to, especially the metaphysical ones over in the Midwest, um, because I will sit back, and there's usually about half of them that are my students, and most of them are certified. And I'm watching them just be in their element and being amazing. And they're always booked. They're always slammed. They're, out of all the people, doing readings, they're the ones that have the waiting line, which is, it's so cool. But to sit back and see that, I've been part of this community to help others find their own way, it's pretty awesome.
I love that. Just as an intuitive myself, that's one of the hardest things I believe. And I'm like you, I believe everybody has this gift. Everybody has the sixth sense and some sort of psychic mediumship about them, some kind of ability. But to trust yourself with the information and the messages coming through, and to trust yourself that you're not making something up, that's pretty hard. And it's hard to teach somebody else that.
Yeah. It's got to be trust, because I always tell people spirit's always there. It doesn't matter. And I love this because even paranormal people tell you everywhere you go, every place is haunted. It's just a matter if they want to talk to you or not. It doesn't matter if it's a brand new building or, a desolate area of land, there's going to be something there. So spirit is always there. Now, are you going to open up to hear it? Are you going to open up to trust it? Are you going to trust yourself? And that's a huge obstacle. That's a huge surrender.
So you teach in your Schooled by Spirit workshops, but you have a lot of experience with paranormal investigations too.
I do.
Can you sort of talk a little bit about that background?
I got thrown into it. Spirit did it to me. I will tell you this one. I mean, Spirit and I have had some conversations because I am stubborn. I fight with my guides. Like, I will have outright, I'm pointing my finger and I think they're pointing back at me. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And I told them for years, I'm not going to go, and I will talk to dead people all day long. They say boo, I quit. I run. I'm going to be the first one running for dear life. Because for myself, when I was a child, I couldn't see, I wasn't seeing in my mind. I wasn't hearing. I could just feel all the spirits around me. I could feel the fairies. I could feel it all. And it was terrifying to me. I mean, that world to me was just the devil's work, because to me, it was so scary. And as an adult, I thought I had control. I wasn't going to do it. And Spirit was really funny because I was at this conference up in Superior, Wisconsin, and did some just amazing readings. And I always say every reading's amazing, because if you help somebody, it's an amazing reading. And after this conference, this lady gets a hold of me and says, "Will you teach me?" I said, "Oh my God, I would love to teach you." And so I sit down and we have a conversation, and I find out she's an actress. She's an amateur actress, but she wants to use it to go ghost hunting. And I went, not doing it. And she was just like, "I won't involve you. I just want to get to know my skill." Oh, fine. Okay, I'm going to teach you, but I don't want nothing to do with this. Guaranteed me those lines would not cross. And the first investigation she went on, while we were in classes together, she gives me a call. I never even think that she's on an investigation, and she gets a hold of me and she goes, "DeEtte, I'm at this building. I'm terrified. I don't know what's going on. I don't And I just go into naturally start reading. I don't even think that she's in this insane asylum someplace, and I go off telling her all about it. He's just a really upset guy. He's not like an entity. And I just go off. I just keep going. And she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. I can deal with this now." And we ended the conversation, and I go to bed. And the next morning I woke up and I went, "They got me. That's not right. They tricked me." So I told her, "Don't you dare do that again." And she promised she wouldn't. And a few months later, she did it again. And that one, it came a little easier. And then I told Spirit I wasn't going to do it. And then they brought me Rob Thompson. And I went, "Okay, Rob, not going into your world, but I'll teach you." And next thing you know, I'm doing Zooms for Rob. And I'm on location and I'm going, okay, I've just walked into this world, you know. So for me, that's how I got started in it. It really was kind of, I will tell you what, spirit tricked me. I'm gonna that's my side of the story. They will probably tell you another one, but my side is they tricked me and I fell into it.
A lot of those locations, though, that paranormal investigates, like Waverly Hills, for instance,
Mhm.
they're just so packed with so much emotion and so much history that overlayer each other. I always walk around away from those places just completely either depressed or beat up, or I can't just leave it for, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
hard for me to just leave that stuff with all the
Mhm.
stories and stuff. That's where my hang up is.
Yeah. That's really hard, but I will tell you what, I have got a dear friend, Scotty Rourke. And he taught me just the most amazing skill. We were up at Baraboo Inn up in well, Baraboo, Wisconsin. It's Old Baraboo Inn, sorry. And he taught me this trick for yourself. You know, he's like, before you walk into a building, just pick up some stones. You know, out of the ground, just pick some stones up and put it in your hand and say a little prayer over them. And you tell the spirits of the building, while I'm in there, you can talk to me. You can do whatever you want. As long as I have these in my hand or in my pocket, we can connect. I can feel you. I'm going to open myself all up. But when I leave, I'm going to put these rocks back on the ground with you. And I'm cutting everything off. I'm not going to take the feeling of you with me. I'm not taking your story with me. I'm leaving it all there with you. And it's really helped tremendously. It's helped as a strong, I mean, it's a lot of belief, but it's telling yourself when you walk in that I'm going to open up to this, because as being a medium, you're going to open up to all of it. But when I walk away, I'm closing down too, and you can't follow. I'm not taking your stuff with me.
I'm gonna have to write that one down and start practicing that, because it is. I'll find myself dreaming about this stuff. I'll carry that person's story with me forever, and it almost becomes like a part of my own life, and they're not. It's very
Right.
interesting, but at the same time, um, I feel like in the paranormal community, we're missing a lot because we're so busy trying to film everything and do this and that for a TV show or some kind of evidence and get this, get that. And then we have these other groups that they get caught up in the fear factor. It's fun for them. It's a
Mhm.
Friday fun thing. You go in there, you get scared of whatever bangs, and then they're gone, right?
Mhm.
Whereas I've go into a place several times, Virginia City, just recently, I went and had a connection with a spirit, and it was almost like a healing factor for both of us.
Yeah.
It was that level of communication and experience,
Mhm.
whereas everybody else will report the same spirit and run away. Has that been the case with you?
I have been, I will tell you what, I've seen a lot of all that. I have, but I will also tell you that I'm very blessed with a lot of the paranormal people I know. They've already had their TV shows. They've already done it all, and they've really given me a lot of their knowledge and a lot of their skill. And like they state, it's about the story. It's about the place's story. It's about the spirit story. It's not about going, oh my gosh, I got this evidence, or oh my gosh, I got that. It's about, we do this work. When we first started, paranormal work, it was about going in and helping the spirit there, helping the family there. Ed and Lorraine Warren did it that way. They went in there to help people, and in no way did they do this for glory. They didn't do it for the money. They didn't do it for the glory. They didn't do it for anything like that. They just did it for the sheer love of helping the family, of helping the spirit, and giving some peace on both sides. And for myself, I have been really blessed that that has been my story this whole time. Do I know about the rest? I do. But I've also never been asked to go off with any of those groups to say I'm just going to go for the evidence. And I think if I did, I'd probably turn around, walk away, just because my nature is I want to help. I want to help. I always tell people, yeah, I'm a medium. Yeah, you're going to pay me, but it's your loved one that's hiring me, your loved one that's found me. I'm here to help them on the spirit side, and they're asking me to help you. Even I've been blessed to work with the Warren Legacy Foundation, which was created after Ed and Lorraine, well, actually after Lorraine passed away, and doing a lot of remote viewing for the organization. And I will tell you what, it reinforced my belief in how we're supposed to do this work. We don't get to show up to, not to say, you can't make a living off of it, but it's to show up to help people. It's to show up to, spirit's always going to compensate somehow. They're always going to make sure you get paid one way or another, or get your recognition or whatever you're looking for. And I'm not downing any shows out there, because honestly, there's some amazing shows out there, and there's some amazing people that do great shows, and I want those shows to continue. But to be able to go in there and to see that maybe what people are calling an entity is just somebody that's really angry or terrified, and they've been that way for a long time, and to help them come to a realization or understand, and then help them find peace and possibly cross over, and then make that choice to cross over, because there's no stuck spirit. They've made a choice to stay. So to go in there and help that to me, is pretty amazing.
I tried to explain it to somebody one time that it's more like you're almost like a counselor for that spirit. Like you're trying to wake them up to realize that you're not stuck here. I feel like it's in the afterlife a little bit. Have you ever met somebody like a homeless person who's so despondent that they have that blank stare in their face, and it's almost like they're there, but they're unconscious?
Yeah.
I feel like in the spirit world, that can happen.
Well, I'm always this firm believer, because people ask me, well, why, they're stuck. Well, no, they're not stuck. Well, why wouldn't they choose to cross over? Why? And I always look at them and go, why would they? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, in our society, whether it is, in the last 10 years or in the last 2,000 years, we're led to believe that, God is evil. We're led to believe that you're going to be crucified for whatever you do. You're not going to get to that, you're not going to get through the pearly gates. You're going to burn in hell. You're not going to be forgiven. There is so much fear-based around death, or what happens to the soul. Now, if you're holding on to that when you die, or you're holding on to some regret, that's something you've done that you just swear up and down you're never going to get, forgiveness for, well, no wonder why they're choosing not to cross over. Now, this isn't every soul. Really, it's so few that choose not to cross compared to what do cross over. But it's a lot, or you get the ones that are just so angry. You get ones that just maybe didn't know they passed away. I've talked to some Alzheimer's patients, that, passed, and they're still stuck in that point of forgetfulness, and just helping them to know what to do. So there's is many reasons why people are walking the earth, are as many reasons as people have chosen not to go on to heaven.
It's interesting too, because the spirits that seem to be drawn to me too, seem to be those that have the same vices almost, or challenges, I should say, in life as what I do, such as like depression is one of them. So I draw a lot of those kind of spirits to me.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
You'll find that. You'll
have
that.
Them, but at the same time, it's helping me,
Yeah.
It's very strange how that works out.
Yeah. I always tell people, it's so funny, because when I sit down, I'm 53 years old, and I have had a very, very colorful life, with many, many, many experiences from birth until the present day. And as many as experiences I had are literally the array of loved ones that are going to come to me, and it's almost, I won't say comical, but it's very interesting, because when I go into metaphysical events, or even paranormal events where I sit down and I start to do readings, there's almost always almost like I don't know what to call it, but if I start with somebody that's committed, tried to commit suicide, it's going to be suicide all day long. You know what I mean? It's going to be, it's always going to be some part of my life all day long, but to me, it's quite interesting to see how that works. But truly, spirit's picking you because you're experiencing this stuff. You know what this is, and you really are becoming an expert on this. So why would they not pick somebody that knows exactly what they've gone through, or what maybe their family's going through?
It's just interesting how it is. Have you ever contacted a spirit that completely changed the way you view how the paranormal works? I'm not sure I'm asking that correctly.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had one? Let me rephrase that. Have you
Yeah.
ever had one that just completely touched you in such a way that it kind of solidified that this is this is your calling and this is the direction you need to go with this?
Um, all of them, honestly. And the reason I can say that is because every time I doubt that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm human, so I doubt, you know, this year alone has been it's a struggle. This has been a very struggle year with the moon phases and everything else. And everybody's been affected, catch up from the pandemic, whatever it might be. And you stand up and you go, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And next thing you know, somebody sits in front of you and you're doing this reading and you're talking to their loved one. And you've almost become their loved one because you're really just surrendering to it. And your gestures are, because you're blending with the spirit, and your gestures are what the spirit would be like. And exact verbiage is coming out your mouth how they would be. And the client is laughing or crying, but they're talking to me as if I'm their loved one. And when they get done and they tell me, it was as if they were sitting there with them, and thank you. And they're walking away lighter or more healed, and I'm going to say more healed, because they're not completely healed, because they still have a journey. They still have to process it all. But to be able to show up every time, and grant you that's the airy fairy world, but even on the paranormal side, I've walked in, and I walked into one establishment, and it had an Alzheimer lady there. And here I am talking to this Alzheimer lady that has chosen not to cross over because, quite frankly, she doesn't remember. And here is her husband that has crossed over, that comes and talks to me. And he's telling me how he used to come and see her all the time when he was alive. He passed away before she did. He's been waiting for her. She didn't remember him anymore when she was alive. She surely didn't remember him once she died, and I'm sitting there, and as I'm talking to her, and it's beautiful because I'm talking to her, but I'm holding dowsing rods for people around me, so that she's talking to me, and then she's moving the dowsing rods, so people are going, okay, DeEtte's on the up and up here, you know what I mean? It was just incredible. And as we're going through this, I'm like, it's clear she is back when she's about 7 years old, not when she's in her 80s. And all of a sudden I go, do you know who Jesus is? And I got like this little lady going, uh-huh, uh-huh. So I just started literally out loud singing Jesus Loves Me. And I told her Jesus was coming for her. And from what I understand from this establishment, the room that she used to be in, they haven't had any contact with her. So to me, she's crossed. She didn't do it while I was there. But, I know when I walked away, she was willing to trust one man who was going to come and grab her.
Wow. I love that story. What's your thoughts on, there's a lot of paranormal places out there, and this isn't a slam on them by any means, but in the paperwork, when you go to investigate in some places, there'll be that tagline that you're not allowed to cross somebody over. What is your thoughts on that? I'm not trying to down anyone who owns an establishment and they have that, but but
I have heard that. I walk in and I go, really, really, and and I do understand where they're coming from. Why? Because quite frankly, that's how they're getting their money, is by these people being there. Okay. What they don't understand is, number one, I can't force somebody to cross over. I mean, I can't, for everybody that hires a medium to come in and cleanse your area, to cross your loved ones, those people over, not going to happen. I will tell you right there, I can play counselor all day long, but I cannot force somebody out of their home or what they consider their home. So that's number one. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I come through with a slew of crystals. It doesn't matter if I come with sage. It doesn't matter what I come with. If that person's hell bent on staying there, they're staying there. Okay. So number one, that whole thing there really is just, it's for the birds in my mind, they're there for a reason, and they've got to find some sort of solace in order to cross over. So to me, I just kind of look at that like, I get it. This is just for your, you want your 10 people to, but I can't force them to leave anyway. So telling it to me is like, it's falling on deaf ears. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody because I get it. But again, and even if I walked into a well-known place that's got multiple, hauntings going on, and I cross over 20 of them, there's going to be 20 more that are going to show up there because it's going to attract other ones of the same caliber to their place. So even if I manage to cross over a bunch are just going to follow back in.
Well, that too, I feel like if there's a lot of people who are investigating this same location over and over again, of course, other spirits are going to visit that location. You're going to bring in that spirit world when you do that.
You're bringing your buddies.
Yeah.
No, it's just, it's a beacon.
I kind of want to change the topic just a little bit and talk about higher consciousness and its role in the paranormal. I think that's something that's not really talked about a lot in the grand paranormal scheme of things. How would you define higher consciousness and what role does it play in connecting with the spiritual realm?
Okay, for me, higher consciousness, I always think it's wonderful because to me, there's multiple different terms and they all basically come to the same thing, higher consciousness being your soul. Okay, and kind of getting into that great realm of things. I mean, there's a whole slew of information from like Edgar Casey, who was a well-known, he was a sleeping prophet on the higher consciousness. And really that's where a psychic gets all their information from. For myself, when you walk into a place, I really hope that you are in full cohorts with your soul. Number one is because your body's you're built with defenses. We're built with a self on the inside, of us when we're born. And to clear up the mumbo jumbo that just came out my mouth, you're born with this body, and you're born with your soul goes into the body. You're also born once those come together, you have this beautiful aura system that's built in. Okay. And your body is talking with your aura is talking to your mind is talking to your soul. It's just this beautiful dance that's going on all the time. Okay. With your higher consciousness really being the one that knows everything that's going on. Okay. So for myself, number one, when I walk into a facility, any facility, I'm really in connection with what's going on with my body because my body's my barometer. Okay. It's really telling me if I'm in danger or not. It's my instant right here, but it's getting its information from my aura. Okay. And my aura is out there. It's feeling everything. It's pushing around. It's gathering information for me. And it's all coming together because my soul is what is going to be able to talk to it all. Okay. So for myself, when I'm walking into a place, I've got multiple things going on within myself in order to have these conversations. I also am a firm believer that when I am working with my higher consciousness, when I'm going into these facilities, I'm going to get the best results. I am going to see things coming at me before, that danger aspect comes in. Cindy Kaza is a good one to watch for that. I mean, I've never met her in person, which is, I'm going to one of these days, but
I met her once and she's a very lovely person.
And to watch her, that she's fully in consciousness of what, not just around what's going on, but she's brought her higher self into this. She's brought her soul into this to be able to get that extra information to let her know if she's safe or not. And people, we like to disregard that because we don't see it. We don't talk about that. everybody disregards the soul as if it's not part of us, how I explain it to people is I always tell them, maybe not the generations going on right now, but my generation and before Gen X and before, we all owned those jalopy cars when we graduated. Mom and dad were not going to give us $200 to go buy a car, but by God, we could get a pretty solid car for $200, and it was a jalopy, but it got us down the road. Multiple times we got into the car, and multiple times the car was either out of gas, it wouldn't start, it broke down, it got a flat tire. There was a multiple reasons why that car stopped. And what did we do? We got out of the car. We scrapped our car. We took that money with whatever change we had, and we went and bought a new car. And that's what our soul's doing. And if you think of your body as that car you buy, and the soul's getting in it, and it's going to stay in this body, no matter how much of a jalopy it becomes. And one day this body's going to stop and the soul's going to get out. But something still has to drive the body. And that's where your higher conscious is. That is what's driving everything. I also speak to a lot more paranormal investigators that would tell me, nope, I don't see anything. I don't feel anything. I have to rely on all my equipment. Mm-hmm. Really, when I have them stepped aside and we start talking, they will tell me, oh, I feel things. I know things. I'm getting it, which tells me they are starting to really kind of connect to their higher self and be able to walk into these facilities.
Well, I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier, where you have trouble trusting yourself. I think a lot of people just don't trust that there might be an afterlife. So they're so focused on trying to get that evidence, mm-hmm. essentially, until they figure out there is something there. I've been in this long enough to know that for me, I know it exists. There's no if and buts about it. I know it's there. I've been experiencing since age 2. But when you have somebody who hasn't, they're relying on that equipment to tell them, yeah, there's something going on here. I think that goes back to that.
The funny thing is I have yet to talk to one person that's in the paranormal that hasn't told me the reason why they're in it is because of something when they happened when they were in their youth. Or there's something that's happened throughout their life that made them curious.
That's true. Or something happens to them. They lost a loved one or survived a car crash or something. It's always something tragic that happened to them.
Always. There's always a reason for them to have this much belief to walk into it.
To me now, though, I get a lot of skeptics all the time. I always get emails and everything else. And because I'm pretty blatant about what I believe and what I don't believe as far as the spirit world. I believe it exists. I know there's a whole afterlife realm. I've experienced it enough times in my life to not believe it. But for me at this point, it's like trying to make someone believe that if there was a God or not, it's that same conversation. So I just lay out my beliefs and they can take it or leave it. It's that. I'm not going to argue about it.
There's no reason to argue about it because, I always laugh because you have people that have beliefs and you can get 20 people in a room and they all have different beliefs. They're all coming at you and they're going to fight till the end of time on their beliefs. But really, your belief system comes if you sit back and you listen to all the conversations. They all have the same beliefs. They just present it in a different manner.
Right.
It's just how they were taught. But whether you're looking at the Kabbalah or Catholic or Buddhist or whatever, they all have a lot of similarities in them.
It's interesting. But yeah, I think, back to what you were saying, I think a lot of that comes to play, but the equipment is important though, because I do like, particularly the ITC stuff. I love the EVP work. And to me, that really solidifies, it kind of, how I was telling you earlier, it's hard to trust in yourself with a lot of this stuff. And then when I hear something and then somebody else catches an EVP, around, you know what I mean? It's just like there's no disclaiming that,
right?
In a sense.
And that's where I think the equipment comes in. I always tell people, especially now they're allowing mediums into the paranormal, and I will say allowing us in because we were considered evidential, which I completely understand it. I get it. But to me, it's amazing when I can go in, we do a whole, myself and Larry Eisler do this whole thing where he kidnaps me. Okay. He just kidnaps me, and Facebook doesn't like it when I say that term, but I have, and but he'll just say, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing on this day?" Nothing. Where are we going? Can't tell you. Great to know. You know what I mean? And off we go. And he is very much a non-believer. He's not in the paranormal. He's huge in the paranormal, but non-believer of a medium. He's like, he has seen me. He believes in me. He believes in me because literally things have come out my mouth that he's just like, I have no clue what the heck you're talking about, but I don't even know where you've taken me. But when he goes back and reviews it all, it's like, I said this, the spirit box said something, like I've said something, and everybody's looking at, there was an instance where gosh, he took me up to Bad Axe, Wisconsin, and had it's a campground, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean? I'm in a campground. And I'm like, what the heck is here? But apparently, this is where the massacre of the Black Hawk people took place, blah, blah, blah. I'm speaking about all of this. This is crazy. They don't know who I'm talking to. And I keep saying, everybody looks at him like he's the chief, but he's not the chief. And he's got me confused. And Dan Norvell all of a sudden goes, I think she's talking to this person. And Larry's like, I think she's talking to this person. And I looked up, I said, what the hell is it with this sparrow up there in the thing? And they looked at me and they're like, well, we know who she's talking to, because apparently it was Chief Sparrow or something like that. And it wasn't even a sparrow. It was just what I heard in my head. And later on, we're doing an investigation. And I kept going, I have the father. I have the father. Who's the father? Is it the chief? Who is it? They're like, we don't know, dear. I said, I keep hearing the father. I'm talking to the father. And we ended up letting it go because nobody could verify who the father was. Later on, when Larry was able to go back through all the evidence, through the spirit box was a name. And when he researched the name, it was a Native American name, an indigenous name. When he researched it, it was literally Captain or Chief Sparrow's father.
Oh, wow.
So if it did not come through the box, what I was saying would have just gone, into the ethers, because there was no proof of it. But here he said his own name, who he was. So sometimes you need the equipment.
Yeah. From your experience, does raising one's consciousness change how you perceive or communicate with the spirit world?
Yes.
You hear that a lot.
Yes, it does. It's to do it on the simplest of terms. When you're if you look at you're raising your consciousness as if a person's maturing, okay, through life. Your truth when you were 18 is different than your truth when you're 30, which is different than your truth when you're 50.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The situation doesn't change. Your maturity and your wisdom is what changes. How you see things, how you deal with things, how you handle things changes. And as you are maturing on this planet, as your soul is maturing, and as you're getting more knowledge, more revelations, more like just aha moments that you really can't explain to anybody. But you can almost feel your soul getting smarter. You can feel a maturity kind of raising. The information you get gets different. Your readings, for myself as a reader, those have changed. I used to do readings that were strictly, I seen if you were going to get a new job, if you were going to get a raise in the job, beautiful readings. People need that information.
Is he cheating on me or not?
Yeah, a lot of those. And again, we need that information. So I'm not knocking it, but I will say predominantly more of my readings are no longer, am I going to get the relationship? But it's more of why you're not in a relationship. It's helping somebody to see more depth of themselves to bring them to a place of healing. So
how could there's this whole idea of the collective conscious.
Mm-hmm.
How does that come into play?
They're everywhere.
In the grand scheme?
I love it. It's so amazing. I always say there's more than one collective consciousness. Um, they're there and they're everywhere. And I'm going to say there's also multiples. Okay. Um, there's a beautiful lady out there named Sarah Landon, and she speaks to, her her higher conscious, her collective conscious group. And off the top of my mind, I can't remember the name of them. I can't even remember why I can't remember the name of it, but she's got her team of multiples. Okay. And I can remember telling a friend about that, and she goes, well, that can't be because I channel that group. And I had to sit back and I went, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about. So I had to go into my own meditation and found out I have a set of 12 I talked to. Thank you. It's a council, Tim. Thank you. Because I was hoping Tim was watching. He could tell me. But so you look at it, she calls them the council, okay, which is a collective consciousness of higher level beings on the other side that she communes with or she speaks with. I have a set of 12 that I speak to that are no way her group, you know? So when you're looking at it, a higher consciousness or higher collective is a group of higher consciousness beings on the other side that you personally work with to have peace, that you're part of a team with.
I just want to mention Tim Bear. I just love him. He was a guest on this show too. So wanted to say hi, Tim.
Yeah, well, you're going to have him on again because he's going to book 2 now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Busted him out. Sorry, Tim.
Tim, you'll have to come back. I got some openings for December if you're listening out there. Would love to have you back on.
He's a dear friend of mine. So very dear friend of mine.
He says, hey, ladies.
He's not getting out of it. It's okay. He knows it.
He totally distracted me. So what I wanted to mention is that, and we're kind of running out of time already. I can't even believe it. You had mentioned that you had taken remote viewing classes a while back, right?
No, I didn't take them. I just became a remote viewer. It'd been easier if I took in class. Yeah, that is something that just came natural to me for some reason.
There is a course, and it's called The Gateway with the Monroe Institute. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
It's an old program from Robert Monroe. He started it back in the 70s, 60s or 70s. I can't remember. It's that time period though. And the whole idea was he was training soldiers to be able to tap into higher consciousness, to be able to see like, for instance, maybe Russian information. What they were, he was trying to train them to look for contraband that was coming over on the ships from Cuba and places like that. Well, it caught on, and people figured out pretty quick that you can tap into your higher consciousness and work on psychic abilities, mediumship. If you wanted to work on a book, kind of like what Napoleon Hill did, he actually channeled an entire book, Think and Grow Rich. The whole thing was channeled. He really believed in that. And just from, I've taken this class, and it's true. It like teaches you to get into that meditative state, to go from right to left brain fairly quickly, to be able to get into channeling and communicating with spirit.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there and see if you knew about that.
I didn't know about it. I do know about the programs where they were teaching soldiers. I also know about the programs where they've brought psychics in to remote view things, for strategic battle reasons and whatnot. But no, I mean, I'm a firm believer. Like I said, one of my favorite people in history is Edward Casey. And if you follow him at all, you'll find out that, he would talk a lot about getting more accurate information because you're going to your higher consciousness. I mean, this body is really not doing anything. It's all, again, it's my aura. It's my higher consciousness that's bringing all the information in.
So I think I've already asked this, but kind of lost my train of thought because I got onto that whole different thing. So what do you have coming up next, and what are some of the projects that you're working on?
Well, we have a huge project I think it's huge anyway. And it actually finishes this Saturday, which is super exciting. It's called The Seance over at the Roth House. No, it's really interesting because this project started with Neil Gibbons getting a hold of, kind of putting out there to, does, excuse me, does any medium out there do seances? And apparently he kind of secretly wanted me to be part of this. And I didn't know this. And I messaged him. I said, I do. And he's like, oh my gosh, can you do this? I was like, yeah, great. Let's do this. And all it was supposed to be is this Saturday night, doing a seance. He's trying to get 250 people. I don't know how many tickets he sold now, but it's the limits. The cap is 250 people around me to do this seance. But it started from being that, turning into a whole documentary.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, Larry Eisler III came in on this project when Neil, they teamed up together, and we started filming for this, gosh, 2-3 months ago now, where we went in and had my first impressions of the building one week, and where I was, a kidnap type of situation. I didn't know where I was going. Larry's just like, hey, we're going someplace. I said, okay. And he said, meet me here. And I said, okay. And I had no clue I was going to the Roth House, had not a clue. That's how I found out the documentary was happening, because I showed up and we're like filming. I'm like, okay. And it wasn't even until later on that night that I'd found out what the Roth House really was. So we had that week. The next week we went back and did a paranormal investigation throughout the whole house. And this weekend we finish it with the seance, and then having kind of a Q&A or something of that nature after the fact, where people can be on film to basically tell the story of this house and the beautiful Wasika wonder about it, and Mary Roth and Lawrence Evenham and the family and the multiple women of Sharon, that were there. So that's really cool. That's finishing up this week, and hopefully within the next year you'll be able to see the documentary on some channel out there. I really don't know where they're presenting it to. I just know they're presenting it someplace after the fact. So that's coming up. And then I have some events. If you follow me on Facebook, you're going to see me. I really am all over the place, which I love. I love it. I won't even lie. I love traveling. I love coming to people that necessarily want, they want those one-on-one readings, but yet they can't come to me. So I love being able to show up and just be there.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I can't even believe we're at the bottom of the hour. It just went by so fast. And I had like 20 more questions to ask you. And just like that, it's over. Where can people sign up to take your classes?
They can follow me on Facebook. When I do offer the classes, I put them up there. They can also go to DeEtte.us. That's my website, where there is a list of courses that I do teach, and, of registering for the classes there also. I do, if they're in the Wisconsin area, or Northern Illinois, Wisconsin area, I am teaching a beginner's course. It's a 1 day, because I do the beginners online, but I also do it as a day course. I'm teaching beginners at Earthsong Books and Gifts in Janesville, Wisconsin on November 16th. And then I'm following that up with my intermediate 2-day course. It takes 2 months normally to teach it, but people want it on in person. Again, I'll be at the same store December 7th and 8th doing the intermediate course, if they want it as an in-person thing.
Well, Renee, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And let's see. So next week, you guys, I have Mike Rissicker coming on to talk about his new book, Connecting the Universe. But in the meantime, you've been listening to The Gateway, your portal to the unexplained, the mystical, and the otherworldly, broadcast from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. I do want to mention one thing. There's a new magazine out called Eerie Expeditions Magazine. It's about eerie paranormal travel. And the website is www.eerieexpeditionsmagazine.com. So go and check that out. Until next time.